Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday worship service. I am Mary Dupree, and I'll be your celebrant today. This summer, the overall theme of our services will be crafting a meaningful life. We'll hear from artists, community activists, environmentalists, and others on this subject over the course of the summer. This morning, we'll explore crafting a meaningful life in music. This service will also follow in our long-standing tradition of Music Sunday, so there will be lots of music and lots of singing, and I hope your singing is hearty and unrestrained. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all of those who are worshiping with us for the first time. We're very glad that you're here. If you've come in person, you should have received a welcome packet with information in it. If you'll fill that out and drop it in the offering basket, we'll be in touch with you to support you in finding your way into our community. If you're joining us online, there's a link on our website to an electronic version of that same card. Our welcoming committee members have yellow name tags, and they can answer any questions or point you towards any additional information. Welcome committee members here this morning. A few. Okay. I hope you'll consider staying for coffee after the service or join us online for a chat in the Zoom room. And now let's say our words of welcome together. Whether this is your first or your 1,000th time with us, and whether you strolled, rolled, zoomed, or danced from being to dim, we're glad that you chose to join us. We're one people of many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders. All are welcome here. I do have a few announcements. Sojourners Alliance, a local nonprofit that works to prevent homelessness and poverty, and which we UUs have supported for a long time, will hold a Father's Day breakfast from 9 to 12:30 at the 1912 Center. The price is $15. Children under 5 are free for potato egg casserole, muffins, fruit salad, coffee, and tea. And the date for that is next Sunday. Also, an informal announcement. The Mahjong group will meet this afternoon at 4 o'clock upstairs in the library or owl room. And if you want to go, please let Mary Jo know so she'll know what the setup is. We preface this service by acknowledging that our church was built on the ancestral homelands of the Nimipu, called Nez Perce by the French-speaking traders, the Palus and the Shishumsh, called the Coeur d'Alene. Let's pause and remember that we live on ground that is sacred, ground that was stolen, ground that cries out for justice and for responsible stewardship. May our remembering help us to find courage to do our part to restore wholeness to the earth and all her peoples. We're hoping that folks at home joining us by Zoom have a chalice or a candle to light and something to light it with. Let's light our chalices together. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and love rise. And beauty, truth, and good be so in every land.
You can be seated, thank you. This service celebrates the richness of musical talent in our congregation. And I've also chosen hymns in the course of the service that represent the traditions that I will be talking about later in the service. Sam, Chelsea, and I will both offer our thoughts about the topic of creating a life in music. Before we sing the first hymn, I wanted to say a little bit about, first of all, what we just sang, which is traditionally called the doxology in maybe a lot of churches that you all grew up in. And it actually dates back to the days of John Calvin and the early Protestant Revolution in the 16th century. And Calvin and Luther and others were insistent that congregations, religious congregations, should be able to worship in their own vernacular language rather than Latin, and that hymns be very simple so that everybody could understand the words and that the music wouldn't confuse people with too much beauty. And so, and so you'll notice, for example, in what we just sang, that the notes are very stepwise. There's one note per syllable of text, and it was just really meant to be a sort of a didactic device, which we'll see is very different from what we're about to experience. So our first hymn is Our Life Flows On, an Endless Song, which I love. And it's a gospel hymn from the late 19th century, written by Robert Lowry. Although the hymnal says it's Quaker, we don't think that's correct. You'll notice that unlike what we just sang, it's very expressive, and it is more heartfelt, I would say. So please join us in singing My Life Flows On, and that's hymn 108.
think Marcus has a couple of words about this next song where he'd like to sing.
Yeah, we're going to do one now. It became pretty famous in traditional circles. I first heard this song, and I'm sure many of you did too, when I was very young, maybe, probably about 7 years old. It was written in 1962 by Bob Dylan. And I know you'll all recognize it, especially those from our generation. It became a anti-war peace song, peace movement song that became very famous at that time. And I'm sure you recognize it. Peter, Paul, and Mary made a great hit out of it too in the years that came after. Ready?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Oh. I'm starting the wrong key. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? And how many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? And how many times must the cannonballs fly before they are forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? How many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? And how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Thank you. Ryan, you're on.
This one on? Just a second. We got it. Okay. Thank you so much, Scott and David and Marcus, for the wonderful music. It is now time for another round of applause.
Great.
So it's now time for our RE classes. With the kids, we're going to go off to the Spirit Play room, but after that, instead of free play, we actually have something very special planned for you today. It's going to be very fun. So if the grown-ups would help me sing the Re-Benediction, we will march off to our special activities. Thank you.
Let's now take a minute to engage in the practice of generosity together. For those of you who are able to make a financial contribution, the logistics are on your screen. We typically give away all of the cash from our Sunday offering to local charities whose values align with ours in a program called the Month of Sundays. This month, the recipients is Food Not Bombs, whose mission is to collect excess food from local restaurants and to get it to those who need it. To donate, please indicate Month of Sundays on your check or from the online drop-down menu. In the spirit of love and for the continuing work of this church, we will now take some time to practice generosity together. Sam fit Joshua, fit the Battle of Jericho. It is now time for joys and sorrows. And I welcome Rodney Fry, one of our lay ministers, who will lead.
Yeah, wow, Sam. Good morning. I'm Rodney, one of the pastoral minister team members. Honored to be so. Now is the time in our service, as members and friends of this congregation, that we lift up our joys and sorrows. The sharing of joys and sorrows is a sacred ritual in our community, a time to briefly acknowledge truly significant life events. As we've sung together in a hymn, joys and sorrows make us wise, kin to all that lives and dies. There are three options for sharing. You can send joys and sorrows to Ryan early, and we'll incorporate them into the next service. You can share here in person and light a candle, or you can let us know on chat if you're on Zoom, and we'll share that and light a candle for you. So go ahead and get comfortable. Take a few deep breaths and check in with your heart. Sorrows come into every life. Each of us suffers losses and setbacks. Each of us struggles, and each of us sometimes knows defeat. Together we create a circle of compassion, wide enough to hold all that is in our heart, all the pain that is in our lives. So if you have a sorrow, please come forward. Joy too comes into our life. Hearts are made to love. This world and the people in it are unbearably beautiful. Together we create a circle of celebration, deep enough to hold all the joys in our lives. So if you have a joy, please come forward. And I do have a couple of announcements, a couple of joys that ask to be shared. So I'll do that this time. Rich Aldridge. Rich's recent prostate surgery was a great success. All the cancer is gone. Please send wishes of patience in recovery. From Dwayne DeTemple. With great joy, Janet and Dwayne DeTemple have watched their daughter Rachel's musical journey, beginning for her when she was introduced to the violin at the age of 3. Her band, Fireweed Fiddle, just released their first album, Orbiting Things, for which she wrote the lyrics and music on what she sings and plays the fiddle.
Debbie McLaughlin here. This is a little bit of a different kind of joy, but about a little over a week ago, Jackie and I attended an event at Moscow Brewing, and it was the presentation of a documentary film. The film was presented by the Latah County Historic Society, and it was filmed here on the Palouse in 1994, and it's called Out in the Middle of Nowhere, in which they focus on the LGBTQ community at that time, and interview different people. And imagine when they, all of a sudden the movie is in front of the Unitarian Church. They're in front of the Unitarian Church and coming in and speaking to Lynn Unger, the minister at the time, who was talking about how we were welcoming of all LGBTQ, and she was performing gay marriages, gay marriages at the time. It just filled my heart, and here we're still doing this, so this is great. And then at the end, they had several people who had been married by Lynn back in the day, who were there to speak, still married. I mean, it was wonderful, and the place was packed. So anyway, yes.
Terrible at this. I just have an addiction to cats, and 3 of my mummies gave birth to 4 kitties each, so I have 22 cats right now, 12 of which are babies. Thank you, God.
Good
Good morning. My name is Susan Irvin. Everybody knows my husband, Michael, but I'm here. My great joy is that after 15 years not being in the U.S., my son is coming home Friday. Yeah. The sad part is it's for his father's memorial service, which will be on the 25th. But brightening it up a bit, he's going to sort 20 boxes of his stuff that he left 20 years ago when he went to Japan, and he's going to clean it out, and I get my house back.
We're Joanne and Bill Webb, and on June 11th in 1966, 57 years ago, we were married on this day in East Lansing, Michigan, after finishing and graduating from Michigan State University. We immediately left after the service and started driving on the old Route 66 all the way across the country to Los Angeles, California. I had a summer job in Thousand Oaks, not a very challenging job, just to kind of make things. So we had the summer to spend touring around Southern California and had a really wonderful summer. 57 years.
My name is Joe Palin, and this is a candle for Zoe and her family. It's been too long since I've been down there. It's been since October, and I'm planning a trip in July, so I'm very excited about that. What I wanted to share was Zoe was going through a pretty hard time. She had just had Clara, and they got a call from their landlord that said, "We want you to move out in a month. We're going to sell the house." So they packed all their stuff, put some in storage, sold some of their big furniture, and moved in with Clinton's grandmother. And the plan was to buy the grandma's house, but grandma ended up saying, "Well, I'm not going to move for a year." And Zoe was like, "Well, I can't do this for a whole year." So she started looking for a house. And she called me one day very excited and said, "We bought a house." And it turns out the house they bought was the house that they just moved out of. And not only that, she went online to find a table to replace her nice kitchen table and found it on sale on Facebook for $50. So she even got her table back, and it's such a joy to hear that stress in her voice turn into pure joy. And all the pictures she sent me now, they're all super happy. So, thank you.
Every life, every heart is filled with joys and sorrows, with hopes and dreams and concerns. We'll light this final candle for all that which is in our hearts too tender to share. Life, however fragile, is a gift, and we in this community of memory, caring, and hope celebrate this gift today and all days. Amen and blessed be.
We'll be singing our next hymn in just a minute. I wanted to give you a little background on this hymn, which is number 126, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." This is a true white gospel tune, and it comes out of a period in American history called the Great Awakening, which was a period of evangelical fervor that swept the country in the late 1700s, around the year 1800. And people would gather in valleys and in fields, thousands together, to worship and to sing together with enormous fervor. And of course, with such enormous groups and people coming from very rural backgrounds where there wasn't much education, people didn't know how to read music. So the gospel hymns are simple, with lots of repeated lines, as you will see in this one, 3 lines repeated with only one contrasting line, but there's enormous amount of passion and fervor in the music. I hope when you sing it, you'll throw your voices into those high notes. Streams of mercy never ceasing, all the songs of love praise. While the whole of reflection fills our hearts with joy and pride, teach us ever to be faithful. May we still thy goodness prove. Come the fount of every vision, with our hearts to one become. See the lion and the lamb proud, together in thy home. Hear the cries of mortal silence, feel the love flow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our hearts to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of the day. Help us promise of union, where our hearts are alone. With thy aid, O Fount of justice, rules me fair as Emma. Thank you. You may be seated. I'm happy to welcome Diane Prorak and Sam Welsh performing Sicilienne by Fauré as our gift of music.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, sorry, Sam. My name is Chelsea Bird Llewellyn, and I am so honored to be sharing some thoughts that I have on music. But first, I just want to say how delighted I am by this congregation. Sam just whips out whatever all of the time. It amazes me, and I just love hearing all of you, and it's just so good. My mom always likes to tell a story of how I sang before I spoke. My baby babbles were sing-songy, and when I was able to communicate in words, I would sing things like, "Please pass the salt." Music has never been optional for me. It's like a limb or an organ that's necessary for survival. Growing up, I struggled in school. I was shy, I had a reading disability, and regularly forgot how to subtract. Music and art class always provided much-needed respite from the challenges of sitting in a tiny desk all day. My first performance was as Piggy #1 in the Three Piggy opera in first grade, and it was magic. Despite being shy, being on stage ignited something deep within that has never left me. I started voice and piano lessons, and even when I felt like giving up on music theory and proper hand positioning for the piano, a thread of desire kept me practicing. When I make music, I feel connected to my spirit. I imagine many of you can relate. In middle and high school, I was in show choir, band, and lots of plays and musicals. In 1999, I got to audition for my dream role as Dorothy in The Sound of Music, in The Wizard of Oz. Sound of Music comes later. At a children's theater camp, and I made it to the last round of callbacks. I will never forget the director calling my name and saying, "Chelsea Bird, cast as Gargoyle #1 and Backstage Poppy." I was so heartbroken, but I brushed it off and I continued on. One day after rehearsal, I was singing the Wicked Witches song for fun on stage, and the director of the repertory theater happened to walk and heard me singing. She asked me to audition for the role of Brigida in The Sound of Music, there it is, with their professional theater company. I got the role, and several after. Into the Woods, Fiddler on the Roof. It was a blast. I had the most magical summers of my life on that stage. Not getting Dorothy was one of my greatest life lessons. It made me have grit and inspired me to keep trying and to find ways to make my dreams happen. A few years later, I got to perform over the rainbow with a full band at a talent show on a cruise ship. It was awesome, and a whole bunch of the remaining munchkins from the movie were on that ship. It was so cool. In college, I started out as a musical theater major after deciding that studying music would make me hate it, and came to the realization that my skin wasn't thick enough for the theater, and my big fish in a little pond days were over. I was disheartened and stopped singing and playing music for many years. Fast forward to graduation, marriage, 2 babies, grad school, and starting a business in downtown Moscow. I was enjoying the holiday meal over Christmas break with our friends the Feenies, and Chelsea and I decided to sing some carols around the piano. I will never forget the feeling I had when our voices joined together. It was pure magic. Chelsea convinced me to play a song or two at One World with her, and slowly but surely, we started practicing together, and the rest is history, and now we have the Chelseas. Music sparks something deep within us all. I only recently realized exactly what that spark is made of for me: embodiment and connection. When I sing, play piano, dance to music, especially when it's with Jerry, listen to music, especially live music that is imperfect and full of mistakes, I get out of my head and into my body and soul. It's a release, a rush, a way to quiet the chatter in my mind and to live freely. Music also sparks universal connection. It's our earth language. Music in the kitchen while cooking or doing dishes makes repetitive tasks a delight. Dancing to music is maybe the most fun, easy, and inexpensive therapy. Songwriting is my favorite way to share my insides on the outside. And blasting a silly song can make my children quickly move from moping to giggling. And making and sharing music with others is truly divine. I don't believe in good or bad music or musicians. I don't believe in good or bad singers. I believe, and I know in my bones, that music amplifies our human experience. Whether you're singing alone in the car or reaping the benefits of the endorphins and oxytocin your body creates when harmonizing, it's a real thing, or simply listening to the sound of your beating heart, music heals, connects, and can bring us all back to our truest selves. I have 2 pieces for you all today. The first is a song I've been writing the last couple of years that I haven't really performed in front of people yet. And the second is a medley that I hope you'll join in with me as if we were doing one of my favorite things, all sitting around a campfire singing together. This microphone likes to fall down on me. There we go. All right, this one is called Feel It All. My face is frozen, my hands are warm, my eyes are open, my heart is torn. I am walking on the ice, I slip and fall, but the skating's nice. I heard that Robin died today, and Leah's baby's on the way. I burned my tongue and lost my place. I dropped a stitch in time and space. My eyes well up, then laughter rolls. My stomach churns, my anger grows. I feel alone, then I feel whole. I feel it all, and on it goes. It's all for you. Come on in. No one else lives in your skin. Your fires will rage, your tides will wane into your bliss and in your pain. My eyes well up, then laughter rolls. My stomach churns, my anger grows. I feel alone, then I feel whole. I feel it all, and on it goes. I feel a lump stuck in my throat. My voice is shaking. I missed the note. I can't escape what's in my bones. Oh, my eyes well up, then laughter rolls. My stomach churns, my anger grows. I feel alone, then I feel whole. I feel it all, and on it goes. I feel it all, and on it goes. Thanks for being my first audience on that one. All right, so I'm a Colorado girl, born and raised, and you know what we love in Colorado, or who we love in Colorado, John Denver. We love John Denver. So I whipped up a strange medley yesterday of some of my favorite John Denver songs, and I really would love for you to sing with me. It's going to bounce around a lot, but you're all very intelligent, bright people, and I know that you can do this with me. All right, so please sing along, and I don't know, if you feel like grabbing an instrument or whatever, you can do that too. almost heaven. West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, blowing like a breeze. Country roads, take me home to the place where I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads. All my bags are packed, I'm ready to go. I'm standing here outside your door. I hate to wake you up to say goodbye, but the dawn is breaking, it's early morn. The taxi's waiting, he's blowing his horn. Already I'm so lonesome I could die. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. You fill up my senses like a night in the forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the desert, like a sleepy blue ocean. You fill up my senses, come fill me again. Sunshine on my shoulders makes me happy. Sunshine in my eyes can make me cry. Sunshine on the water looks so lovely. Sunshine almost always makes me high. I hear a voice in the morning, now she calls me. Radio reminds me of my home far away. Driving down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday. Country roads, take me home to the place where I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, take me home. Country roads, to the place where I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads. Thanks for singing with me.
All right, so I've been terrified about this all week. Because I play music. I don't often talk about the squishy, insidey parts very much, but I really can only hopefully echo what Chelsea said. I know we're running short on time, so I'll just tell a little bit of my story, and then I'm going to play some Chopin, which hopefully is cool with everybody, but I'll introduce it, and we can talk about it a little bit after if you want. I grew up in South Florida, kind of in the Miami side. I was a rainbow baby, youngest of 4. So my closest sibling is 8 years apart. So by the time I was old enough to pay attention, they already had very well-established musical tastes. My brother was like super into Miami bass and had one of those cars with the big bass thumping stereos in the back. My dad had sort of started a country band with my sisters, and they would sing harmony, and my brother would play bass. And I was really too young to participate in all of that, and I can say I was not interested at all. I just didn't connect with any of the music, and I didn't really connect with the music that they played or that they were listening to in their cars, or the music that I heard at our church, which was one of those, other religions that we don't like to talk about. So I didn't have a lot of positive association with music, and then I was, of course, forced to take piano lessons at the age of 8, where the teacher said, "This is a waste of my time and a waste of your money." So I didn't play for a long time. But in middle school, I signed up for what I thought was a general music course. Turned out it was a piano class. And the teacher there, he used a method book by the Hungarian composer Bela Bartok. It's funny because now that I've been teaching piano for 30 years, I've never come across anyone that uses that book as a method book. So it's very funny that he just happened to be the guy. But so that was the first time I had ever really been exposed to classical music. And for me, it was like the emotional equivalent of being struck by lightning. And so I just went nuts. So he introduced me to Beethoven and Mozart, and I was absolutely hooked at that point. Outside of the class, I started teaching myself, little Beethoven sonatas and things. And then he connected me with his piano teacher, who actually came from a really important lineage in Paris, and then the rest is history. So I kind of want to start there, because as you use, we like to say bad things about classical music sometimes, and I would like to advocate for it, that these were real flesh and blood people making real flesh and blood music. And it's easy to be cynical and to say, oh, we've heard the Beatles at this point, and we've heard every other piece of music, electronic stuff, music concrete, Schoenberg, 12-tone, all of that. But if we can, for a moment, since we didn't do a meditation today, we can all just kind of take a deep breath, settle into our chairs. I'm not going to make you sing, but what I want you to do is, as I'm playing, to kind of just let the music wash over you and let it bring up whatever it happens to bring up. So the piece that I'm going to play is an etude by Chopin, and the term etude means a study. And to this point in music history, they had all been these kind of repetitive deep type things that you hear people practicing. They hadn't been created as a work of art. So Chopin was really the first person to take a technical problem and create a musical solution to it. So in this one, it's called the cello etude, and the obvious technical difficulty is playing a melody with the left hand, but I think the more important part of the piece is how it relates to what my pinky is doing in the right hand. So you can pay attention to those two things, but I'd also like you to remember that, so this was written in 1837, so almost 200 years ago. Chopin was 27 when he wrote these pieces. So if you can think about, at least I can think back to my 27-year-old brain and have some maybe not very fond memories, but I think about how I felt at the time, and I think about what Chopin must have felt. And he, you know, he died when he was 39, and he only wrote music that involved piano. So he never wrote symphonies or string quartets or anything like that. It always involved a piano. So, so I'm going to open the lid if that's okay, because I always get comments. You need to turn the piano down. It's not amplified. It's the microphones are just to pick it up for Zoom. So, so I'm going to open the lid, and I want you guys to enjoy, and then let me know after how it felt.
Thank you so much, Sam. That was just great, and great to get to know a little bit about you other than the wonderful things you do for this church. I think I'm going to kind of bridge what Chelsea and Sam had to say. For a number of years, we celebrated Gospel Sunday under the leadership of Jim Waddell, AKA Reverend Jim Bob. Jim came from Georgia and grew up in a Methodist or Baptist church. Even as a UU, he had deep affection for the ethos and the music of the Southern Church and celebrated it in Gospel Sunday. I imagine that many of you have similar affection for music of your own youth, whether in church or in your families or at camp. I certainly do. I grew up in a household full of music. My mother was a pianist. She put aside her classical repertoire and music reading skill after she married my dad. You'll find out why in a minute. And she could play anything by ear, especially the popular music of the 30s and the 40s. They made quite a duo, entertaining friends at parties and encouraging sing-alongs. So my siblings and I were all exposed to the piano at an early age. My brother and sister continue today to play. My brother in a rock band, in various rock bands, and my sister in classical chamber music ensembles. I played well enough to demonstrate things in the classes I taught, but am neither skilled nor inspired as a pianist. We were active members of a congregational church that had a strong music program, and so we had a great congregational singing, which is our background. The most powerful musical force in my life, though, was my father's songs. Dad was from rural Georgia and came north during the Depression in the 30s to work in industry. He brought with him an amazing repertoire of music, which he shared enthusiastically and taught us. He was a powerful singer and sang with equal sincerity and affection Black spirituals, white gospel music, racist minstrel songs, traditional folk songs, and popular music that he had learned by listening on the radio. He also loved poetry and had us memorize and recite at the dinner table everything from Shakespeare sonnets and psalms to minstrel show routines and the poems of Robert Service. While I majored in music, classical, in college, I was still drawn to my father's songs and increasingly wanted to understand where these musics came from, what they meant to him and his family, and how the music fit into the larger picture of our history and culture. So how did I put this all together? This fairly deep knowledge and love of classical music and entrancement with the vernacular music of the US. I ended up being a music history major and then did my graduate work in musicology with an emphasis on American music. At that time, in the 70s, the American music academic establishment was just beginning to emerge from the fog of Eurocentrism. And I was actually able to do serious study of some of my favorite genres, including early hillbilly music, shape note hymnody, Black spirituals, and early jazz. How have I crafted a meaningful life in music? All the pieces didn't necessarily fit together all that well. As a professor, I gained enormous satisfaction from guiding students in an appreciation of how classical music works. The inner workings of a composition continue to fascinate me, and I gain enormous pleasure from tracing my way through both familiar and new works, classical, jazz, and ethnic. I started and directed a chamber music series because I really wanted to share this experience with my students in my community, bringing outstanding performers from around the world to the Palouse. I also put so much time into this endeavor for my own personal satisfaction of going to the concerts. On the other hand, I wanted to explore how music works in culture, and that became the focus of my academic research. I was able to integrate contextual aspects of American music into my teaching when later in my career I started teaching interdisciplinary courses as a member of the American Studies faculty at the University of Idaho. Engaging with literature and anthropology and other fields and learning from colleagues in those fields both stimulated my research and provided a broader worldview I could bring to my traditional music history classes. After retiring from the university, I continued to direct the chamber music series for several years. I loved singing with the Jelly Beans, whom a lot of you will know, especially because of the range of the music we sang. I gave up singing with them last year as my singing voice gave out. Congregational hymn singing is, for me, the most moving and maybe even the most spiritual part of the Sunday service. The shape of the music, the harmony, yes, the words, kind of, but also the deep historical and cultural evocations of the hymns. Thank you for putting up with my teacherly instruction about today's hymns, and thank you all, musicians who contributed to this wonderful service today. Thank you. Mary Jo has a check for the month of Sundays to give out.
I got so involved with the music, I forgot almost. Daryl, can you come up? Daryl, come, is he here? There he is. But you got a really good service to listen to here today. So I think 1 month ago, 2 months ago, we made a collection for the Once at Sundays for the Oxford House that Daryl can tell you about. We have $1,911.58, and I hope it can help heal this house.
Well, I'm not going to talk much because we've had a great service and I can't top Chopin. However, I will say we're in the process of rebuilding the house right now. If you were to go by right now, we haven't quite started, but we'll start tearing it down probably within the next week with an eye towards basically rebuilding what was there. But since we've got the chance to rebuild, of course, we're going to improve it a little bit. So this will help. And I will also say that thank goodness for insurance, and thank goodness nobody was hurt. Thank you.
Our closing hymn is Down by the Riverside, and it is hymn number 162. And I want to say just one sentence about it. Black spirituals were practiced during the period of enslavement from the 18th and the early 19th century. They were usually sung in unison or usually with unison voices. But after the Civil War, there were black choirs who were touring the United States and Europe to make money to support brand new black colleges and universities like Fisk University. And so they took these traditional songs and beefed them up with piano accompaniment as sort of a concert presentation to help fundraise for these new institutions. But sing them as you would with enthusiasm. Thank you. Oh, and we're going to sing verses 1 and 2 and then 1 again, because 3 is kind of weird. A little Unitarian for my test, but.
One.
was great, congregation. You did good. We're going to close with a song that we have often sung in this church, Dona Nobis Pacem, which means give us peace. And you may or may not know that it's actually in the hymn book as number 388, if you don't know it. It's a plea for peace. And I would ask that you think not only about places like the Ukraine and Somalia, but think about our own country and the epidemic of gun violence. Bring us peace too. You can sing it as a round. Peace, pacem, pacem, dona nobis Nobis pacem, dona nobis pacem. We'll extinguish the flame. We extinguish this chalice that it might flow gently in our hearts. May it light our paths as we leave this place. May it pipe our way as we depart together again. Thank you all. Music, music, music. Please join us for coffee if you can.